Welcome to Module 9, Debugging and Error Handling. So this is a particular skill which you want to develop when learning about scripting and programming languages in general, but it would certainly help you quite a bit in scripting your geospatial solutions. So that is the skill of debugging and error handling. And first I'm going to talk a little bit about debugging. And the first thing to know about is there are two general types of errors, syntax errors and logic errors. Syntax errors pertain to spelling, punctuation, and indentation, or other typographical errors you introduce into the code that will not allow the code to run and produce a runtime error. You would think these would be the easiest type of errors to detect, but I personally have spent many hours over the course of my programming career investigating these errors, and often they are buried within the code in a place that you would never think to look, and can be quite irritating. But if you're able to harness the tools of your integrated development environment, in PythonWin in this case, you can have a lot more ease with detecting these errors. Alternatively, if you don't have the tools of an IDE, carefully selected print statements and code commenting can help. So syntax errors, as I mentioned, will occur when you're running a script. And in PythonWin, that will manifest in a error down at the bottom left-hand corner, and it'll give you a number, in this case 5, where it's telling you that in line number 5 there's an error. Also, the interpreter window will show the Python error that returns back from Python. In this case, you can see there's a colon missing after SC list. It can be helpful to note this line number, but other times the line number is not necessarily indicative of where the error is occurring, and you will have to read the error message to think about what the interpreter is telling you is going on with the error. Alternatively, you can actually step through the code, and I think I've showed you some of this already, but let's do stop there. Okay, so we've already talked a little bit about stepping through code in recent modules, and I would like to talk a little bit more about it because it's particularly useful in debugging code. And the IDE, and the PythonWin in this case, allows you to step through code in a way which is quite useful, and let's revisit that. So I'm going to go ahead and pop over here to my eDesktop GIS and open fclist Python script here, which is going to be one from your exercise. Right click on it and just select edit with Python. And so there's a couple different things you can do. You can actually go ahead and run it by clicking go, or you can hit the check. In this case, we're getting that the check looks okay, so everything looks okay to run. So we'll go ahead and run it. And it's running. And we get an error. And what you want to do is generally gloss over this first part here and go right to the end of the error code and read backwards, as the tip had suggested on the previous slide. And the first thing we see is des is not defined. And so it's not telling us what line, though. So, here again, the Python line numbers aren't always provided. And so we could either, one, look for des in this code, which we can see it's right here, or we could take further steps and actually begin to debug our code. And to do this, we'll hit step over, and we can actually continue to hit step over and go through our code line by line until we produce that error again. And there we are. So we find that line 7 is the problem. And of course, this variable name is misspelled. So we fix that. Alternatively, you can run a script using this run script dialog and select step through in the debugger here. The other type of error to pay attention to are logical errors. And the logical errors do not stop your script from running. They just produce results that make no sense or are undesirable. And the thing to pay attention to here is that the actual output is not what you would expect. You can use the same debugging steps, such as stepping through code and tracing variables. You can also write pseudocode or a flowchart to try and understand the logic error. And so what do we mean by logic error? Here is an example of a Python script that the purpose of it is to produce an average of two variable numbers. And in this case, we have average equals x plus y divided by 2. Now this is not going to produce the average we would expect because of the order of operations. So what we would want to do is actually put parentheses around x plus y to signify that should occur before the division. And so that is an example of a logical error. And a third way to really address debugging is to look at including try catch, as they're sometimes referred to, or try except statements. And as you can see, here's an example, and you're going to cover this in your exercise. And the idea here is anything after the try statement begins to here at the bottom, if there's an error produced anywhere in here, it jumps to the exception statement, passing the exception as a parameter, which you then put in a variable and you can print to the screen. So that's something that you'll want to work through in the exercise. Thank you very much.